The bridge of the Indomitable was quiet. Too quiet. Captain Daijung stood with his hands behind his back, watching the large screen in front of him. On it, Ambassador Jiwoo stood alone in a massive circular room. Around her, hundreds of aliens sat in their seats. They looked like many different things. Some had scales, some had fur, some glowed with strange lights. But they all had one thing in common. They were turning their backs on humanity. "Please," Jiwoo said. Her voice was steady, but Daejung could hear the pain in it. "We have fought beside you for 20 years. We have bled for this alliance. We have died defending your worlds. Now we ask for help and you turn away?" The council leader, a tall being with 6 arms and silver skin, spoke without emotion. "The Void Collective is too strong. Your losses at Kepler Station prove this. We cannot waste resources on a species that cannot defend itself. The vote is final. Humanity is on its own." One by one, the alien delegates stood and walked out. Jiwoo watched them go. She did not cry. She did not scream. She simply stood there as the chamber emptied. When the transmission ended, the screen went black. Daejung felt his communications officer look at him. "Sir, we have reports coming in from all colonies. Trade routes are closed. Supply shipments have stopped. We are completely cut off. How long can we last?" Daejung asked. A woman with short black hair stepped forward. Dr. Hana, the chief science officer, held a datapad. "Without their technology shipments, our faster-than-light engines will fail in 2 years. Maybe less. Food supplies will last 6 months if we ration carefully. Weapons, ammunition, spare parts." She paused. "Captain, we cannot win this war alone." "We do not need to win," Daejung said quietly. "We just need to survive," but surviving seemed impossible. 3 days later, Daejung sat in a war council meeting. Faces appeared on screens all around him. Military commanders from Earth, Mars, the Jupiter colonies, and beyond. They all looked tired. They all looked scared. "The order is clear," said General Park from Earth. "We must pull back all forces to the inner system. Abandon the outer colonies. We cannot defend everything with what we have left." Daejung felt sick. Abandon the colonies. Leave millions of people to die. It made tactical sense. It was logical. It was also wrong. A new face appeared on screen. Governor Yunbi of Titan Colony. She was younger than Daejung expected, maybe in her late 30s. Her eyes were red from crying, but her voice was strong. "You want us to leave our homes? To run away and let our people die?" "Governor, please understand," General Park said. "We do not have enough ships. We do not have enough weapons. If we spread our forces too thin, we all die, then we die together," Yunbi shouted. Tears ran down her face now. "Do you not see? If we abandon each other now, we are not worth saving. The galaxy already gave up on us. Are we going to give up on ourselves?" The room went silent. Daejung stared at Yunbi. Her words hit him like a physical blow. She was right. What was the point of surviving if they became the kind of people who abandoned their own? Before he could speak, alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the bridge. "Captain," his tactical officer yelled. "Void Collective ships just appeared near Europa Station. They are attacking." Daejung jumped to his feet. "How many civilians are still on the station?" 12,000, sir. They are trying to evacuate, but the transports are too slow." "Who do we have in that area?" "Lieutenant Minho's fighter squadron." 12 ships. "Sir, they cannot stop a Void Collective attack force." Daejung grabbed his command chair. "Tell Minho to engage. Buy those transports time." "Sir, that is a suicide mission. The squadron will be destroyed." "I know," Daejung said. His voice was cold, but his hands shook. "Send the order." Lieutenant Minho was 26 years old. He had joined the military 5 years ago, full of dreams about exploring the stars. Now he flew a fighter through a war zone, watching enemy ships fill his sensors. "All wings, this is lead," he said into his radio. "We have 12,000 civilians down there trying to escape. We are all that stands between them and the enemy. I will not lie to you. Most of us will not make it home. But those people will. Are you with me?" 11 voices answered. 11 pilots who knew they were probably going to die. But they did not hesitate. "With you always, lead." Minho smiled sadly. That phrase, it was something humans said to each other. A promise that you would never abandon someone. It seemed fitting now. His squadron dove into battle. The Void Collective ships were massive, dark things that seemed to absorb light. Their weapons were powerful. One shot could destroy a fighter. But Minho and his pilots were skilled. They flew between the enemy ships, firing missiles, drawing attention away from the evacuation transports below. A child's voice came over the open channel. She must have been on one of the transports. Her mother was probably showing her the battle above. "Mommy, will the pilots save us?" "Yes, baby. They will save us." Minho felt tears in his eyes. He pushed his fighter harder. To his left, he saw one of his friends explode in a ball of fire. Then another. The enemy was overwhelming them, but the transports were almost away. "Almost safe. Transports are clear," someone yelled. "All civilians are away." Minho looked at his scanner. 4 fighters left. 8 of his friends were gone. But 12,000 people were safe. "All remaining fighters retreat," he ordered. They ran. The Void Collective did not chase them. The enemy had learned something today. Humanity would fight. Back on the Indomitable, Daejung stood in front of all the screens showing the War Council. He had watched the battle. He had watched good people die. Now he had to make a choice. Follow orders and abandon the outer colonies, or do something that might doom them all. He thought of Governor Yunbi's words. He thought of that little girl asking if the pilots would save them. He thought of Lieutenant Minho and his squadron saying "with you always" before flying to their possible deaths. Daejung stood straight. "I will not follow the evacuation order. The Indomitable and all ships under my command will defend every human colony. We will not abandon anyone." "Captain, that is mutiny," General Park said. "Then arrest me when this is over. If we survive." Daejung looked directly into the camera. "The galaxy has forsaken us. They believe we are not worth saving. But I believe differently. We are worth saving because we will not abandon each other. Every colony, every station, every ship, every life. We stand together or we fall together." On Titan, Governor Yunbi watched the transmission. She started crying again, but this time with hope. In her lab, Dr. Hana sat down at her computer. If they were going to defend everyone, she needed to find solutions. Impossible solutions. In his fighter bay, Lieutenant Minho climbed out of his cockpit. 8 empty spaces where his friends used to be. He would fill those spaces with new pilots, and he would teach them what it meant to never give up. Across human space, people heard Captain Daejung's message. The galaxy had given up on them. But they would not give up on each other. The war was just beginning and the odds were impossible. But humanity had something the galaxy did not understand. They had each other. And that would have to be enough. 1 year into the war, humanity had survived longer than anyone thought possible. But surviving was not enough anymore. The galaxy was watching now. Really watching. And what they saw was changing their minds. The first ship to arrive was Valen. It appeared near the Indomitable without warning. Alarms blared across the bridge. Weapons were charged. Captain Daejung prepared for battle. Then a message came through. "This is Commander Vela of the Valen Star Guard. We come in peace. We come to help." Daejung stared at the screen. The Valen were one of the species that had voted to abandon humanity. Why would they help now? The Valen commander appeared on screen. She was tall with blue skin and 4 eyes. She looked ashamed. "We have watched your people suffer. We have watched you refuse to break. We were wrong to abandon you. I know one ship cannot make up for that mistake. But it is a start." The Valen ship moved into formation with the human fleet. It was just one vessel, but it meant something more. Humanity was not alone anymore. On the bridge, several officers were crying. Dr. Hana wiped her eyes and smiled. Captain Daejung stood straight, his voice steady. "Welcome to the fight, Commander. We are glad to have you." More ships came in the following weeks. Not many, but enough to matter. Species from across the galaxy. Breaking ranks with the Coalition, they could not live with their shame anymore. They had seen what real loyalty looked like, and it had changed them. Dr. Hana's shield technology was shared with these new allies. At first she worried they would steal it. Use it for themselves, but Captain Daejung insisted. "We share because that is who we are. We do not hold back help from those who need it. We are not like them." The alien allies were amazed. Human technology, freely given, no payment, no demands, just help offered because it was the right thing to do. It was unlike anything they had seen before. Lieutenant Minho found himself training alien pilots. At first it was strange. These were the same species that had abandoned them. But he saw something in their eyes. Genuine regret. A real desire to make things right. A young Valen pilot approached him after training. Her name was difficult to pronounce, so she told him to call her Vel. "Why do you not hate us? Vel asked. We left you to die. My people voted to abandon yours. Yet you teach me to fight. Minho thought about all the friends he had lost, all the pain, all the anger. Then he thought about what Captain Daejung had taught him. Because you are here now. Because you chose to come back. That takes courage. Maybe more courage than staying would have. We do not waste time on hate. We use our energy for protecting people. You want to help protect people now. That makes you one of us. Vel's eyes filled with tears. She saluted him in the human way. With you always, sir. Meanwhile, Ambassador Jiwoo was causing chaos in the Galactic Council. She had released all her evidence publicly. Every species in the galaxy now knew what the coalition had done. Young aliens across countless worlds were protesting. They had seen humanity's struggle. They had seen real loyalty. And they were angry at their leaders. Jiwoo stood before the council again. But this time the chamber was not empty. It was full of protesters, young voices demanding change. You used us as a test, Jiwoo said. You let thousands die to see if we were worthy. Well, here is what we learned. We learned that you are not worthy of us. We learned that true civilization is not about power. It is about who you protect. It is about who you refuse to abandon. The council leader tried to speak. The crowd shouted him down. A young Valen delegate stood up. We have seen what loyalty means. We have seen what it means to never abandon your own. The humans have shown us we were wrong. They must be welcomed back, not as members on trial, but as equals, as teachers. The chamber erupted in agreement. The council was losing control. The galaxy was changing and humanity was the reason why. But the Void Collective was not done. They saw the galaxy turning toward humanity. They saw their advantage slipping away. So they made a desperate move. They gathered every ship they had and launched a final assault on Earth itself. The sky above Earth filled with enemy vessels. More than humanity had ever faced. Every human ship, every allied vessel raced back to defend the homeworld. But they were outnumbered 5-1. Maybe more. Captain Daejung stood on the bridge watching the enemy fleet approach. This was it. The final battle. Win or lose, this would end today. Dr. Hana ran onto the bridge holding a data pad. I have an idea. It is crazy. It might not work, but it is all we have. Tell me. Every shield generator in human space. Every single one. If we activate them all at once, link them together through quantum entanglement, we might create a barrier around Earth. A shield big enough to protect the entire planet. What is the cost? Hana's voice shook. It will drain every power grid. Earth will go dark. Cities will lose power. Life support in some areas will fail. People will die, but maybe fewer than if we let the attack hit us directly. Daejung looked at the enemy fleet. Then he contacted Governor Yunbi on Titan. Governor, Dr. Hana has a plan to protect Earth, but it will take power from everywhere, including Titan. Your colony will go dark. Some people might not make it. I am asking your permission. Yunbi did not hesitate. We have come too far to fail now. Do it. We are with you always. Every colony gave the same answer. Every station. Every settlement. They would all go dark to save Earth. That was what family did. The shields activated. Across human space, lights went out. Cities fell into darkness. People held their children close, trusting in a plan they did not fully understand. Trusting in each other. Above Earth, a barrier of shimmering energy appeared. It covered the planet like a second atmosphere. The Void Collective fleet fired. Weapons that could destroy continents hit the shield. The barrier held. Lieutenant Minho led the fighter screen. His squadron, now including Vel and other alien pilots, flew between the massive enemy ships. They were not trying to win, just to buy time, just to keep the enemy busy while the shield did its work. The battle was fierce. Ships exploded on both sides. The void filled with fire, but slowly, incredibly, the Void Collective began to pull back. They could not break the shield. They could not defeat an enemy that refused to give up. They had lost. The enemy fleet retreated into quantum space. The threat was over. Earth was safe. Humanity had won. For 3 days, Earth remained dark. Power was slowly restored. Systems came back online. The casualties from the power loss were fewer than expected. Communities had helped each other, shared resources, protected the weak. They had learned well. Captain Daejung stood on Earth's surface for the first time in over a year. He looked up at stars that no longer seemed hostile. Dr. Hana stood beside him. "We did it," she said quietly. "No." Daejung smiled sadly. "They did it. Every person who sacrificed. Every colony that went dark. Every pilot who flew into danger. They are the heroes. We just gave the orders. A message arrived from the Galactic Council. They were voting to formally welcome humanity back, to offer reparations, to acknowledge their mistake. Ambassador Jiwoo had won, but the real victory was not political. It was the Valen ships that stayed to help rebuild. It was the alien species that came to learn from humanity. It was the galaxy understanding what loyalty truly meant. Humanity had not just survived, they had changed the universe. 3 months had passed since Captain Daejung's decision. 3 months of constant fighting. 3 months of watching supplies run lower and lower. The human fleet was scattered across the solar system, trying to protect every colony at once. Should have been impossible. Maybe it was impossible. But they were still here. Dr. Hana had not slept in 2 days. Her lab was a mess of calculations and failed experiments. She stared at the holographic display in front of her, showing another dead end. Every shield design required materials they no longer had access to. The Galactic Coalition had taken that technology with them when they left. She threw her datapad across the room in frustration. It clattered against the wall and fell silent. Hana put her head in her hands. People were dying because she could not solve this problem. Ships were being destroyed because their shields were failing. And there was nothing she could do about it, or was there? Hana sat up slowly. She had been thinking like the aliens taught her, following their methods, using their technology. But humans were different. Humans thought differently. They did not always take the obvious path. What if she stopped trying to copy alien shield technology? What if she created something completely new, something based on human thinking? Her hands flew across the keyboard. Numbers filled the screens around her. This was crazy. This should not work. But the math was showing something. Something strange. Something that might actually be possible. 6 hours later, she burst onto the bridge of the Indomitable. Captain Daejung turned, surprised to see her running. "Doctor, what is wrong?" "Nothing is wrong," Hana said, breathing hard. "Everything is right. I figured it out. The shields. I can make them work without the alien materials." Daejung stared at her. "How?" "Quantum entanglement. We do not need exotic particles. We just need to connect normal particles in a way no one has tried before. The aliens never thought of it because it seems inefficient. But it works. It actually works." She pulled up her calculations on the main screen. Daejung did not understand most of it. But he understood the conclusion. Shields that humans could build. Shields that would protect their ships. "This is why they should never have underestimated us," he said quietly. But not everyone was celebrating. On Titan, things were getting worse. Governor Unbi walked through the colony corridors, watching people grow thinner each day. Food rations were cut to almost nothing. Power was being saved wherever possible. Children no longer played in the recreation areas. They were too weak. The Void Collective had surrounded Titan 6 weeks ago. Their ships blocked all supply routes. No one could get in or out. Unbi had sent message after message to Captain Daejung. Help was coming, he promised. But it would take time. Time they did not have. She entered the colony control center. Her staff looked up at her with hollow eyes. One of them spoke softly. "Governor, we have 4 days of food left. Maybe 5 if we cut rations again. But the children, they cannot take another cut." Yunbi felt cold fear in her stomach. "How long until help arrives?" 3 weeks. Maybe 4. The room was silent. Everyone knew what that meant. They would not last that long. The Void Collective was waiting for them to starve. Yunbi stood up straight. "Send a message to all colonists. Tell them to meet in the main assembly hall in 1 hour. All of them." An hour later, thousands of people filled the hall. They looked tired, scared, but they were all there. Yunbi stood on the stage and looked out at her people. Her family. "I will not lie to you," she began. "We are running out of food. Help is weeks away. The logical thing to do would be to surrender. To beg the Void Collective for mercy." She paused. "But we are human. We do not give up, we endure, and I have an idea. It is dangerous. It is probably crazy, but it might work. Titan has methane lakes, lots of them. We have mining equipment. What if we use that methane as fuel? What if we turn our mining equipment into weapons? We cannot destroy their ships. But we can make them think twice about getting too close. A man in the crowd stood up. That is insane. We are not soldiers. We are miners and farmers and scientists, Yunbi nodded. You are right. We are not soldiers. We are survivors. And we will survive this too. Who is with me? Slowly hands went up. Then more, then more. Soon almost everyone in the hall had their hand raised. They would fight. Not because they thought they could win, but because they refused to quit. Meanwhile, the real test was coming. The Void Collective launched a massive attack on Mars. It was the biggest assault yet. Hundreds of enemy ships appeared in orbit around the red planet. If Mars fell, humanity would lose its main shipyards. They would lose the war. Captain Dae-jung assembled every available ship. This was everything they had. Every fighter, every cruiser, every damaged vessel that could still fly. Dr. Hana's new shields had been installed on most of them, but they were untested in real combat. Lieutenant Minho stood in his fighter, preparing to launch. He had 40 new pilots under his command now, fresh faces to replace the friends he had lost. He looked at them gathered around him. Today we face the biggest battle of this war, he said. Many of us will not come back, but that is not what matters. What matters is that we give the people on Mars time to evacuate. What matters is that we stand between the enemy and those who cannot fight. Remember why we do this. Remember who we fight for. The pilots responded as one. With you always, sir. The battle began. The space around Mars turned into a storm of fire and metal. Ships exploded. Missiles flew. Energy beams cut through the darkness. The Void Collective pushed forward with overwhelming force. But something was different this time. Dr. Hana's shields worked. Enemy weapons that should have destroyed human ships were blocked. Not perfectly. Not every time. But enough. Enough to give them a chance. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Dae-jung coordinated the defense. He was using tactics that Lieutenant Minho had discovered. Ways to predict Void Collective movements. Ways to use their massive size against them. A Void Collective dreadnought bigger than 10 human ships combined moved toward the civilian shelters on Phobos. Thousands of families were hiding there, unable to escape. If that dreadnought fired its main weapon, they would all die. Minho saw it happening. All wings on me. We need to stop that ship. His squadron dove toward the massive enemy vessel. It was suicide. Everyone knew it. But no one hesitated. They flew straight at the dreadnought, firing everything they had. The dreadnought's shields absorbed most of their weapons, but they were annoying it, distracting it. It turned its guns away from Phobos and toward the fighters instead. Minho's scanner screamed warnings. The dreadnought was targeting him specifically. He had seconds to live, but the civilians on Phobos were safe now. That was what mattered. Then something unexpected happened. 3 human cruisers appeared from behind Mars's moon. They had been waiting, hidden. Now they fired at the dreadnought all at once, not at its shields. At its engines, the massive ship lurched. Its engines exploded. It began drifting, unable to maneuver. The other Void Collective ships saw this and hesitated. For the first time, they looked uncertain. Dae-jung saw the moment. All ships push forward. Drive them back. The human fleet surged ahead. They were still outnumbered. They were still outgunned. But they fought with a fury that shocked the enemy. This was their home. These were their people. They would not yield. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, Mars was still free, barely. The human fleet had lost 30 ships. Over 5,000 people were dead. But they had won. Minho landed his fighter in the bay, his hands shaking. He had lost 12 pilots. 12 more names to remember. 12 more faces that would haunt his dreams. But thousands of civilians were alive because of them. Across the galaxy, something began to change. Alien species that had watched humanity's abandonment started to feel uncomfortable. They saw humans fighting impossible battles. They saw humans refusing to abandon anyone. They saw something they had forgotten. They saw loyalty. A message arrived at the Indomitable 3 days after the Battle of Mars. It was from a Valen ship, one of the alien races that had voted to abandon humanity. The message was simple. We have watched you fight. We have watched you suffer. We were wrong. We are sending help. It was one ship. Just one. But it represented something more. Humanity was not completely alone anymore. And on Titan, relief forces finally arrived just as the colony's last power generator shut down. Governor Yunbi collapsed from exhaustion, but she was smiling. They had survived. 6 months after the Battle of Earth. The war was over, but its marks remained everywhere. Captain Daejung walked through the memorial gardens on Mars. Millions of names carved into red stone. Each one a person who had given everything for humanity's survival. He found the section for Callisto Station. 38,000 names. The people he had not saved. The choice that would haunt him forever. He knelt down, touching the stone with his hand. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I am so sorry Dr. Hana found him there." She sat beside him quietly. They did not speak for a long time. Finally, Hana broke the silence. "The Galactic Council offered me a position. They want me to lead scientific cooperation for the entire galaxy. They want to learn from us. From human innovation, will you take it?" Daejung asked. "I think so. We won the war. Now we need to win the peace. We need to teach them what we learned. That some things matter more than efficiency. That loyalty is not a weakness. That protecting each other is the highest form of strength." Daejung nodded. "You will do well. Just remember what it cost us to learn these lessons. Never let them forget, never," Hana promised. She looked at him carefully. "What about you? What will you do now?" "I do not know. I have been a soldier for so long. I do not know how to be anything else. But I know I cannot command anymore. Cannot make those choices anymore. I carry too many ghosts. You gave everything for us. For all of us. You are allowed to rest now, maybe." Daejung smiled sadly. "Maybe someday I will learn how Lieutenant Minho stood in front of a new class of pilots. They were young, eager. They looked at him like he was a legend. He hated it. He was not a legend. He was just someone who survived when many others did not. Today I'm going to teach you something more important than flying," he began. "I am going to teach you about the cost of this war. I am going to teach you about the people who died so you could stand here today." He pulled up a hologram. Faces appeared. Hundreds of them. Thousands. These were my friends, my squadron mates. Each one of them died protecting people they never met. Each one made a choice to put others before themselves. You want to be like them? Then understand what that means. It means carrying their memory. It means never forgetting why we fight. Not for glory, not for victory, for each other. Always for each other. A young cadet raised his hand. "Sir, do you ever regret it? The war, the choices you made?" Minho thought about it. "Every day, I regret every loss, every friend I could not save. But would I do it again? Yes, without hesitation, because the alternative was abandoning people, and we do not do that. Ever." His students graduated understanding something that would make them better pilots, better people. They understood that being strong meant being willing to sacrifice. That being a hero meant doing what needed to be done even when it hurt. Engineer Hyon stood in front of the rebuilt Martian shipyards. It was not the same as before. Nothing could replace what had been destroyed. But it was something new, something better. Built with help from alien species who had learned from humanity's example. A Valen engineer worked beside him. They were designing ships together. Human innovation combined with alien technology, creating something neither could have built alone. "Your people are remarkable," the Valen said. "You lost everything and you shared what little you had. You taught us that community matters more than competition." Hyon smiled. "We had no choice. When you have nothing, you realize what really matters. People, connections, loyalty. You learn that building relationships is more important than building things. I wish we had learned that lesson without you having to suffer so much, maybe. But maybe some lessons can only be learned through pain. The important thing is that you are learning now, that you came back, that you chose to make things right." Governor Unby returned to Titan. The colony was rebuilding, slowly, carefully. Families who had left were coming back. Children played in the corridors again. Life was returning to normal, or at least a new normal. A young girl approached her one day. Yunbi recognized her. She had been born during the siege. "During the darkest days, Governor Umbi?" the girl asked. "My mother told me you saved us, that you kept us safe when everything was terrible." Yunbi knelt down to look the child in the eyes. "I did not save you. We saved each other. Everyone on this colony. Everyone in human space. We survived because we refused to give up on each other. That is what makes us strong. Not weapons. Not ships. Each other." The girl thought about this seriously. Then she smiled. "With you always?" Hyunbi felt tears in her eyes. She hugged the child. Yes, baby. With you always, Ambassador Jiwoo stood before the Galactic Council one final time. But this time she was not asking for help. She was accepting their formal apology, their offer of reparations, their invitation for humanity to join them as equals. The council leader approached her privately after the ceremony. We were wrong about your species. We thought you needed to prove your strength. But you proved something far more important. You proved the value of loyalty, of never abandoning those who need you. You have taught the entire galaxy a lesson we had forgotten. Jiwoo looked at him coldly. Your test cost millions of lives. It caused suffering that can never be undone. Yes, we proved ourselves, but the question is, did you prove yourselves worthy of us? The council leader had no answer. He knew she was right. The galaxy had failed humanity. Now they had to earn humanity's trust. Years passed. The galaxy changed in ways no one expected. Human values spread. The concept of never abandoning your own became central to galactic civilization. Species that had competed began to cooperate. The strong began to protect the weak. All because humanity had shown them a different way. Dr. Hana's shield technology was shared freely with everyone. Not sold, not traded, given. Because that was what humanity did. They helped. Lieutenant Minho's tactics were studied in every military academy. But the first lesson of his manual was not about fighting. It was about why you fight, about protecting those who cannot protect themselves, about loyalty being stronger than any weapon. One day, Captain Dae-jung stood on the bridge of a new ship. Not a warship, an exploration vessel, the new Indomitable. Dr. Hana was beside him as Chief Science Officer. Engineer Hyun was his second in command. Lieutenant Minho led the flight wing. They were together again, but this time they were exploring, not fighting. A young ensign approached Dae-jung nervously. Sir, may I ask you something? Of course. They say you saved humanity, that you made the choice to defend everyone when it seemed impossible. How did you know it was the right choice? Dae-jung looked out at the stars, at the infinite darkness filled with lights. I did not know. I still do not know if it was right. All I knew was that I could not live with myself if I abandoned anyone. So I chose to try, to fight, to stand with all of humanity even when the odds seemed impossible. But we won, the ensign said. We survived, Dae-jung corrected gently. We survived because we remembered something simple, something the galaxy had forgotten. We are not strong because we never fall. We are strong because we refuse to fall alone. When the galaxy forsook us, we stood strong. Not through power, but through loyalty. Not through weapons, but through the simple promise that we would never abandon each other. With you always. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us strong. The ship entered quantum space, heading toward unknown stars. Humanity was no longer alone, no longer forsaken, but they carried the lessons of those dark times with them. Lessons about what really mattered. About the value of community. About the strength that comes from standing together. The war was over. The suffering was past, but the promise remained. The promise that had saved them. The promise that had changed the galaxy. The promise that would guide them forever. With you always. 8 months into the war. Humanity was still fighting, still surviving. But the cost was becoming too much to bear. Every victory came with terrible losses. Every saved colony meant sacrifices somewhere else. Captain Dae-jung stood in his quarters staring at a wall covered with names. Names of every person who had died under his command. The wall was almost full. He added 12 more names. Pilots from yesterday's battle. Young people with families, with dreams, with futures. Now they were just names on a wall. A message came through his console. 2 colonies under attack. Ganymede and Callisto. Both needed help immediately. Dae-jung pulled up the tactical display. His heart sank. He did not have enough ships to save both. He called Dr. Hana to his quarters. She arrived quickly, seeing the look on his face. What is wrong? He showed her the display. 2 attacks. Both colonies have tens of thousands of people. I can save one. Tell me, doctor, how do I choose? Hana stared at the numbers. Her hands started shaking. She ran calculations, trying to find another way. Maybe they could split the fleet. Maybe if they moved faster. But the math did not lie. There was no solution. Someone was going to die. Ganymede has more people, she said quietly. 42,000 versus 38,000. So we let 38,000 die to save 4,000 more? Dae-jung asked. What kind of math is that? What kind of choice is that? The only choice we have. Hana's voice broke. I am sorry, Captain. I am so sorry. Daejung gave the order. The fleet went to Ganymede. Callisto was left to face the enemy alone. He listened to their final transmissions. People begging for help. Children crying. Then silence. That night, Daejung did not sleep. He would never sleep well again. 38,000 names that would never be written on his wall because there was no room. But they lived in his mind. They always would. Dr. Hana had her own problems. Her shield technology worked. It saved lives. But it had a side effect she had not discovered until now. The quantum entanglement was slowly damaging the cells of the people operating the shields. Not immediately. Not obviously. But over months, over years, they would get sick. She stood in front of Captain Daejung holding the medical reports. We have to tell them. The crews using the shields need to know. If we tell them, they will stop using the shields, Daejung said. And without shields, we lose more ships. More people die immediately instead of maybe getting sick later. We cannot lie to them. They have a right to know. You are right. Daejung looked tired. So tired, we tell them. We tell them everything. And we let them choose. They made an announcement to all fleet personnel. Dr. Hana explained the risks. The shield operators could develop health problems. Some might die years later from diseases caused by the technology. Anyone who wanted to stop operating the shields could do so. No questions. No judgment, not one person stopped, not one. When asked why, a young technician spoke for all of them. Because if I stop, someone else dies today. I might get sick tomorrow. I will take tomorrow's problem over today's death. Every time. Lieutenant Minho sat alone in an empty pilot's ready room. 12 chairs, all empty. He had lost another full squadron today. They had died protecting a single transport ship carrying 300 civilians. 12 lives for 300. It was the right choice. The necessary choice. So why did it hurt so much? His hands would not stop shaking. He could not close his eyes without seeing his friends die again and again. The explosion of fire. The screams over the radio. The silence that followed. Captain Daejung found him there. The older man sat down quietly beside the young pilot. How many more times can I do this? Minho asked. His voice was barely a whisper. How many more friends do I have to watch die? As many times as we need to, Daejung said. Until the war ends. Until we win or lose. I wish I had a better answer. I wish I could tell you it gets easier. But it does not. It never does. Then why do we keep doing it? Because those 300 people are alive. Because someone's child got to see another day. Because we are the only ones who can stand between the darkness and the light. And yes, the cost is terrible. But the alternative is worse. Minho looked at the captain. Do you ever regret it? The decision to defend everyone? Every day? Daejung's voice was heavy. I regret every choice I have made. Every person I could not save. But I do not regret trying. I would rather die trying to save everyone than live knowing I abandoned someone. Far away, Ambassador Jiwoo was making a discovery that would change everything. She had been investigating the Galactic Coalition's decision to abandon humanity, trying to understand why. Now hidden in secret files that she had stolen from Coalition servers, she found the truth. They knew. The Coalition had known about the Void Collective threat for years. They had known it would come to human space. And they had decided to do nothing, not because they could not help, but because they wanted to see what humanity would do. They wanted to test if humans were worthy of the galaxy. It was all a test. Every death, every sacrifice, every impossible choice, all part of some cold calculation to see if humanity deserved to exist among the stars. Jiwoo felt rage like she had never known. How dare they? How dare they play with lives like this? She copied all the evidence and sent it to Captain Daejung with a simple message. They did this to us on purpose. Now everyone needs to know. Daejung stood on the bridge of the Indomitable reading the files. Every officer around him read them too. The bridge was completely silent. Then someone started crying. Then someone else. Anger and grief filled the room. Dr. Hana stood beside Daejung. What do we do with this? We tell everyone, Daejung said. Every human. Every colony. They deserve to know what was done to them. The broadcast went out across all human space. The evidence of the Coalition's betrayal. The proof that this was all planned. Daejung expected it to break morale. He expected people to give up. Why fight when the galaxy was playing games with their lives? But something unexpected happened. Instead of breaking, humanity became angry. They had fought for survival. Now they fought for something more. They fought to prove they were worthy, to show the galaxy what real loyalty looked like, to demonstrate that some things mattered more than cold calculations. Engineer Hyan made a decision that week. The Martian shipyards, his life's work, were struggling to keep the fleet running. They needed more resources he did not have, so he made the hardest choice of his life. He ordered the shipyards to be dismantled. Every piece of equipment, every spare part, everything would be distributed to the fleet. He watched his creation being torn apart. Tears ran down his face. But the fleet would fly. Ships would have the parts they needed. People would live. That was what mattered. Governor Yunbi faced a similar choice on Titan. Resources were scarce everywhere. Some families had to leave the colony, had to give up everything they built. She helped them pack. She held children as they cried about leaving their homes. She promised they would return someday. She prayed that promise was not a lie. Lieutenant Minho returned to his fighter. His hands still shook. His heart still hurt. But he flew again. He carried the memories of his fallen friends. Every mission he fought for them. Every civilian saved was a promise kept to those who died. The war raged on. Humanity was bloodied, traumatized, pushed to the edge of breaking. But they did not break. They bent, they survived. They endured. And slowly across the galaxy, other species began to watch, began to see something they had forgotten, began to question whether the coalition had been right to abandon them. On the Indomitable, Captain Daejung added more names to his wall. Too many names. But he kept fighting, kept making impossible choices, kept carrying the weight of every life lost, because someone had to, because humanity deserved that much, because loyalty was not just a word, it was a promise, and he would keep that promise no matter the cost.